Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel where, as I said in the past, where we discuss serious issues, matters that if left undiscussed they cause a whole lot of trouble, and perhaps even when they are discussed they brew a lot of trouble, as you'll find out in this video. And so before we even go any further, I do want to set up the background here for a moment. I've been listening to the radio lately and the news. It seems to me that the issue of sexual orientation has taken the front stage in our country, and there's just so much talk, there's so much noise about it, and people saying this, others saying that, and so there's so much discussion and there's so much disagreement also in the discussion about this particular issue. And so I thought, if I am to make a considerable contribution to the discussion, I might have to point back to the Constitution where everything else, comes from. In a previous video, we referred to the definition of the Constitution, which, is regarded as the supreme law. And it then says that any law or conduct that is inconsistent with it is then considered invalid. And so that makes sense for me then to, in trying to contribute to this important issue, to go back to the cradle of our law, of our legislative framework. In this case, it is then the Constitution of the country of 1996. So today will be part number 2 of our discussions related to the Constitution. So, again, we're going to be talking about the issue of sexual orientation over against the issue of belief, or the issue of conscience, or then use the broad term of religion. Okay? And obviously this is based so much in chapter 2 of the Constitution, which has, the Bill of Rights. There are about 5 subsections in section 9. And, I really want us to read through them, just to familiarize ourselves with the contents of this section, because they are very important. Right, so chapter 2, section 9 deals with equality. So we're going to go ahead and read subsection 1, which states, everyone is equal before the law and has the right to equal protection and benefit of the law. Okay? So let us note the word everyone is equal before the law. And I want us to consider the law in this case fundamentally as the Constitution, all right, which then becomes the ground for all other, it becomes the source for all other subsidiary laws that are derived from the Constitution. Okay, so everybody is equal before the Constitution and has the right to equal protection. One of the duties of the Constitution is to protect, right? It is to protect everyone. Remember that. Subsection 2 of the same section states, equality includes the full and equal enjoyment of all rights, please note that, and freedoms. Huge concepts, very important. Then says, to promote the achievement of equality, legislative and other measures designed to protect and advance persons or categories of persons disadvantaged by unfair discrimination may be taken. Here's a very interesting concept. Unfair discrimination. We're going to talk about that in a moment. So that's what we have in subsection 2, okay? Then subsection 3 of chapter 2 of section 9, says, the state may not unfairly discriminate directly or indirectly against anyone on one or more grounds. And here are the grounds: race, gender, sex, pregnancy, marital status, ethnic or social origin, color, sexual orientation, which is where we're going to be focusing, is one of the grounds, okay? Then you have age, disability. Then here is our next side of the issue: religion or conscience or belief. Then culture, language, and birth. So these are the grounds on which discrimination cannot be exercised, because if it is exercised, whether directly or indirectly, it becomes unfair. And of course, later on, we're going to be referring to the table of non-derogable rights, which will then give some guidance there on how far, what is the extent of the discrimination, and how far, we should exercise discrimination if needs be. All right. So we know that. We'll come back to that. But so far we have here grounds upon which discrimination should not be exercised. Should it be exercised, it then becomes unfair. And I want us to focus on these two categories. Sexual orientation on one hand. On the other hand, you have religion, conscience, and belief. Whether you consider those to be, similar or not, to be the same thing or not, that's a different point. But they all have to do with, what people, the set of beliefs that people subscribe to. Subsection 4 then says, no person may unfairly discriminate directly or indirectly against anyone on one or more grounds in terms of subsection 3. National legislation must be enacted to prevent or prohibit unfair discrimination. So subsection 4 refers to persons. Persons should not practice unfair discrimination, whereas subsection 3 was concerned with the state not practicing the same as well. And then here's another concept again that I think it's important. Listen to what it says. It says national legislation must be enacted to prevent or prohibit unfair discrimination. To prevent or prohibit unfair discrimination. Okay? I guess that has to do with the concept of protection. Subsection 5, which is our last subsection under section 9 of chapter 2. It then states that discrimination on one or more grounds of listed in subsection 3 is unfair unless it is established that the discrimination is fair. That's another interesting point. Okay, did you hear that? Discrimination on one or more of the grounds listed in subsection 3 is unfair. Unless, now here's the big word, unless it is established that the discrimination is fair. Okay, so we find that discrimination is not to be practiced. But there's one provision at which discrimination is lawful, is consistent with the Constitution. When is that? It is when we establish a ground of fairness which necessitates the discrimination. Then the discrimination becomes fair. Alright? Bear that in mind. Now, here is the table of non-derogable rights, and there are so many of those rights that come that fall under this table, but I noted this one because that's what we're going to be focusing on in this video. Section 9, which deals with equality. Listen to what it says under the category of extent to which the right is protected. Okay? Extent to which the right is protected. It says this: with respect to unfair discrimination solely on the grounds of race, color, ethnic or social origin, sex, religion, or language. Now, observation number 1. Do you notice that under equality, the non-derogable rights do not include sexual orientation? Think about it. Sexual orientation is not included under these rights, whereas religion is included. So, I'm not trying to say that we need to favor religion over sexual orientation. I'm simply, observing what's in the Constitution. The Constitution itself, under the non-derogable rights, does not include sexual orientation. It doesn't. Why is that? Think about it. Here's my contention, okay? Here's what I'm driving at. This is the reason why I made this video. As I said at the beginning, there is a lot of conversation in our country about people's sexual orientation. And under that category, I'm thinking of homosexuals in particular. I'm thinking of homosexuals, okay? A man attracted to other men or a woman attracted to women. That's what I'm talking about here. And that falls under sexual orientation. Now, the Constitution states very clearly that discrimination should never be practiced on the basis of one or more of these grounds, one of which is sexual orientation, the other is religion. And yet, it seems to me that in our country, when people who subscribe to, and I'll just call it that for now, who subscribe to the religion of Christianity, who read a book called the Holy Bible, and the Holy Bible in various places explicitly states that homosexuality is a sin. Let me state it differently. Homosexuality is a behavior that is repugnant to God. It is a behavior that God hates and ought to be avoided at all costs. Christians read that book. They believe the book. It is their belief. Their consciences are fully convinced of the contents of the book. Now, the contents of the book, as I just pointed out now, they say something about homosexuality, which under our Constitution would go under the term sexual orientation. But it seems to me that in our country, there is a biasness, okay? People are saying Christians should be silenced. They do not have their rights to express their belief regarding what they understand, what they consider to be sinful, what they consider to be repugnant to God. They do not have the right to say that. Yet, on the other hand, the people with, who are homosexuals, who have a propensity to their gender, to the same gender sexually, those people have the freedom, they have the right to express that, even if or regardless of the fact that that expression itself is offensive to the Christians. So you see what is going on here. What Christians express as a sin, as unacceptable, is offensive to one group of the population. Yet, who are that part of the population subscribe to in terms of sexual orientation, the fact that that is offensive to Christians, that is not regarded. That is not regarded. The Constitution speaks about discrimination, fair and unfair discrimination. It seems to me, you tell me what you think, it seems to me here that there is unjustifiable fair discrimination. And I'm saying it's fair, under quotation mark, because I do not believe that it is fair. I don't believe it is fair. Who is there to decide that when a Christian expresses their belief with regards to homosexuality, that they are being unfair? Yet when the homosexuals express their sexual orientation, they are being fair. Who is there to decide that? And it seems to me, as I listen to the radio, people talk about, especially SAFM, because I love the radio station, I listen to it a lot. As I listen there, people talk about these matters, and I sense a biasness. In fact, maybe I shouldn't even say that I sense it, but I see it, I observe it, it's there for everybody to tell. It's just there. When Christians express their freedoms, when they express their beliefs, they are termed old-fashioned. They are termed too traditional, conservative, stagnant. They are not moving with the times. But Christianity does not necessarily require Christians to so-called move with the times. What is considered to be sin remains sin, and that's it. Unless there are contextual reasons in the Bible, to think otherwise. But apart from that, it remains a sin. I want you to think about these matters. I say there is unjustifiable so-called fair discrimination when it comes to sexual orientation and people's religion in South Africa. This is a discrepancy in our constitution. Think about it.